have a first, and I'm very excited. Come check it out. It's my first commission job. This dresser and side table belonged to the daughter of a friend of mine. They're getting ready to move, and she'd like both of these pieces painted white for her new bedroom. Both of the pieces, while they are dirty and need a good scrubbing and vacuuming out, are in very good shape. Now guys, what's it with glitter in teenage girls' bedrooms? Is it glitter fingernail polish? I don't know. Now, some of the paint on the dresser has started to chip and fail just a little bit. But again, you're going to see even the dresser has dovetail drawers. Now look, all that excess paint from her previous paint job, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now the bottom drawer has some pretty significant dings in there. I'll need to fill them up with Bondo and sand them smooth prior to painting. And then the only other little element is that the veneer at the bottom on this side of the dresser has started to peel up a little bit. A piece is actually broken off. I'll need to glue it in place and patch that area. But I'm very excited to get started. As usual, I started by removing the hardware so that I could properly clean. The silver knobs she wants to reuse, so I'm saving those. The hardware on the side table needs to be replaced. Anytime you're getting ready to paint furniture, you need to give it a good cleaning, and I like to start with vacuuming. Every single surface of the furniture I'm going to work on gets vacuumed, even the underside and the underside of the drawers. When the vacuuming was done, I mixed up some hot water Dawn dish detergent and scrubbed those pieces with a scrub brush and even a scrubby pad. They were pretty grungy and needed to be cleaned very well. Now, after I did that, I rinsed it off with clean, fresh water because you need to remove that soapy residue prior to painting as well. The first thing I did when I brought it inside was I scraped off the paint that had already started to chip in that area where the veneer was failing. I used a glue syringe to squirt some glue way up inside of there, and I reattached that piece that broke off, and then later clamped it and left it for several hours to dry. You want to see that glue start to squeeze out when you apply the clamps. That shows that there's enough glue there, but you do need to wipe it off prior to painting. It's time to take this apart to see how the repair went. No doubt I'll have to fill some areas with Bondo. Now I'm sanding for a variety of reasons. I'm not sanding all the paint off. There's no need to do that. But in some areas, as I've shown you, some of the paint is starting to flake off, and I want to be sure that I can smooth those areas out so that when I paint, there won't be that texture underneath. I will also be sanding the sides of the drawers because there's a lot of white paint on the sides and I want to clean them up. The insides of the drawers are needing a freshening up as well. And of course, the side table that I'm doing has glitter on top. I need to sand that smooth. So let's get busy. So whoever previously painted this dresser left quite a few drip marks. That's a big glop on the side of one of the drawers. So there were a lot of areas I wanted to clean up before I painted. The areas where there are dovetails, I like those clean, and so I sanded all of them down and tried to remove as much of the paint that was there to begin with. There was even paint on the inside of some of the drawers. Now the back side of the front panel right there where I'm sanding and where I'm sanding right there were big clump marks there as well. So I wanted those smoothed and cleaned up as much as possible. And then on the inside of the dresser, the same thing. So guys, I sanded and sanded and sanded and sanded. I wanted it pretty for my client. Some areas here that need a little fortification. Also, this is the bottom drawer that was badly dinged up. I'm going to go ahead and fill these areas also with some Bondo and then sand it smooth later. The Bondo and the cream hardener have been blended, and now I have to work very quickly. I did this once before with a dresser that had some dry rot on the bottom. I'm just going to fill in some of those cracks that are still there from me having re-glued the veneer down, and then I'm going to try to fill in as much as this area as well, just to get deep down inside those pores of wood, to just kind of firm up the base a little bit and prevent this area from splintering anymore. Maybe 20 minutes later, I use my Surfprep to sand it smooth and prep for paint. And when I was done with that, I also scuff sanded the piece with 220. Rethunk Junk paint doesn't require scuff sanding. I just like to do it for insurance. So this is what we're looking like by the end of the day. I've already wiped down the dust. I'll be ready to start painting tomorrow. I wanted to show you the areas where the paint had been starting to crack. I had to sand a wide area to smooth it out. Some areas I had to fill with some plastic wood, like there. I removed the glitter from this, but then I just realized that I needed a new hardware for the side table, but I found this knob in my stash of hardware. That's what I'll use here. Because I had done so much sanding and wiping up dust, I went ahead and used the Prep, which is Rethunk Junk's version of a cleaner. Sprayed it on, wiped it off, and then I was ready to paint. I've just started painting. She wanted a bright white, so I'm using Cloud. It's the brightest white they have. Now I've already started painting, and here's a little thing that's concerning me a little bit because I am such a perfectionist. I've tried to sand out smooth all the existing drips that were there, or where the paint ended up along the edge of the drawers and whatnot. I spent probably 3.5 hours sanding this piece, so this won't be perfect. And I feel like I need to keep taking pictures to show Jennifer that some of these things existed before I painted it. So I guess that's what a lot of people feel when they're doing commission work, especially this one being my first. So I'm going to continue painting with Rethunk Junk. The first coat of paint you put on can be super, super thin. You don't have to cover everything. In other words, you're still going to see areas where I sanded down to bare wood. After my first coat, you'll still see a shadow of that, and that's okay. The point of this first coat is essentially what's comparable to priming for Rethunk Junk, because once I put that second coat on, it's going to be beautiful. And being that this is white, I will not be surprised it needs 3 coats, but we'll see. I got the first coat on the dresser and drawers. That took me about 45 minutes. And now I'm gonna start the side table. I always like to turn my pieces upside down if I can to start painting the legs. That's what I'm gonna do now. It is a glorious day, and I don't want to be stuck indoors anymore. Plus, I've been wanting to know what it would be like to spray the Rethunk Junk. So I am going to pull out my Wagner Flexio 5000, and I'm going to thin the paint with a little bit of water prior to putting it in to the canister. I'm going to put my hair up in a ponytail, get my respirator, and we're going to get spraying. Now, one thing that I did do just now was I lightly sanded the tops of both the dresser and the side table and wiped that off with a tack cloth, just so that the surface of those two pieces have a super smooth surface to spray on top of. Guys, you've seen me struggle with these Wagners, and this one's not even that old. It's spitting out the paint in a tiny area. I ended up spraying parts and then finishing with a paintbrush. I'm using up all of the paint, which is another reason why I switched to the paintbrush, so I could reserve some paint. But I think 2 coats might be enough. If not, by morning, if it looks like I've missed some spots, I'll go out and I'll get a little container of paint. It's the next day. Everything is brought inside. Yesterday was a bit of a fiasco trying to spray it. I just ordered a new sprayer. So what I'm going to do, because the spraying left a little bit of texture on some of the pieces, I'm going to use a very used foam abrasive pad. It's probably comparable now to a 320 to lightly sand those areas that aren't quite smooth. I'll wipe it off with a tack cloth, and then I will go ahead and start hand painting or rolling. I haven't decided yet, those areas that need a little more paint, and unfortunately I had to go buy another container. And I'm caulking in an area at the top that is separated and more noticeable to me now that everything's painted. Just filling in that gap, and I'll use a baby wipe to smooth it out. Or you can use a wet finger. Yeah, much nicer. So I guess I'm trying it all with Rethunk Junk this time. So what I'm doing now is rolling the last coat on. I'm really loving the way it's going on with the roller, and it's leveling out super smooth. It's beautiful. So I'll do the last and the third coat with the roller. I'm using a 3-inch high density foam roller. I'm doing all the flat surfaces, and it's just amazing. I love it. Leave it alone, Amy. All right. I'm finally finished with Jennifer's pieces. This is the 3rd job that I have painted with Rethunk Junk. And it's the 2nd job of those 3 that I'm seeing brushstroke marks. And I've tried to sand as much of them as I could before I rolled the last coat on. I find the paint to be very thick. And even though I thin it down a little bit, I'm still getting the brushstroke marks. Nonetheless, these are cleaned up. I ended up putting some shelf liner in the drawer of the side table because I couldn't sand out the stains, and they're looking pretty and clean. So